I had to go to an event, so I was trying to still do my job and go to functions and things. And I walked into this room and I was already running late. So the ADHD's there, didn't know about it. I sort of fly in kind of sideways running late into this room. And it's all these people I know, but it was all also a room of like they had projections all on the walls, very arty event. And I think the projection sort of hit my eyes, like the light got me and it kind of disarmed me, I guess. Like all of a sudden, but in a panicky way, I had what people, I guess, have when people have panic attacks and things regularly. I had that insight of like, wow, people do this all the time. I'd never, because I live normally so happy. I walked in there and honestly, it was like a tiger was chasing me or I was under fire. Like instantly lost my breath. I was like the most terrified feeling I've ever felt in my life. And my friend, oh, sorry, a lady walked past, they're in these functions with the champagne on the tray. She walked past and it's like that snapped it out of me. And I just grabbed that and I saw my friend and she just sort of waved at me and I was like beeline to her and I just never said anything, but I'd gotten out of it in that moment. I was very lucky, but I shit myself at that. I was like,
Mm.
what if that happens when I'm driving with my kids in the car?
Hi, I'm Debbie Thompson, and this is A Stone in My Shoe, the podcast where we explore how midlife can become the most true, purposeful, and fulfilling chapter yet when we listen to what's really there. And today's guest is Amanda Gorman, a Gold Coast artist, TEDx speaker, mother of 2 teenagers, and founder of Distracted. She was diagnosed with ADHD in adulthood after years of burnout, grief, and feeling like she was constantly falling short. Amanda now helps thousands of people better understand ADHD through education, advocacy, and lived experience. And today we're going to talk about the emotional side of ADHD and the impact of late diagnosis and what happens when years of masking and pushing through finally catch up with you. Welcome, Amanda.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's so lovely to have you. I met you at Distracted when I was trying to find out more about ADHD as well, having been diagnosed and 2 of my children as well. So it's something we're very familiar with in our family.
Yes, that's so good. That must have been a couple of years ago now too, when we
Yes.
first met.
Yes. Yes. So I just love the work that you're doing and how you're supporting the Gold Coast community. Gold Coast, for anyone listening from overseas, is in Australia. And Amanda set up this extraordinary container where people can come together once a month and she brings experts in to talk about it and have people's questions answered. And people feel supported and understood and that there are some strategies they can use.
Yeah, it's great.
So, yeah, you're doing
It's a
great
good
work.
old community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it's beautiful. So before we begin our conversation on the stone in your shoe, I just want to ground this for the woman listening. So as she hears your story today, what do you hope she begins to see or understand about herself?
I would hope from this that people will start to look within and start to analyze why is this happening or what's happened, why am I doing this thing or why did that happen and how can I look to improve? Yeah, a lot of the time we're looking out at what's happening around us and just get like being on a roller coaster. But I think sometimes if you can stop and just have a look at what do I need? I think that if someone can just think that after this and start looking and taking, not abandoning anyone else, but just having a look at what I need, I think that would be a really big thing for people,
And I think
women.
that's yeah, and I think exactly what I was going to say is middle-aged women in particular, when we are
Yeah.
everything for everybody else and stopping and actually what do I need is something that many of us find difficult. So that's beautiful. Permission to do
Yeah.
that. You ladies, you have permission to do that. Okay, so the just so we can get to know you a little bit more, Amanda, where are you in this season of your life and what matters most to you?
So I feel like I'm in a great season of the life. It's always changing. So I've got 2 older kids now. They're still at home and in high school, so they're not, like, haven't flown the nest or anything. So I feel like I'm in the thick of all of that side of it. But they're not little kids anymore, so I'm not having to be full on doing hair and trying to get braids done before you run out the door. It's not that. It's the older side of things, but still we're not driving cars or anything yet. So it's a cool space. I know that we've got a whole new thing coming. So the house and the family front's really still very like a nice family unit where I feel like I've got everyone here. And work-wise, very busy doing ADHD of me, lots of different projects. I have wear lots of hats being an artist, and I also teach artwork like workshops after school, and yeah, all my distracted stuff. So I've been very busy there. And what was the thing you said about what was the last part?
Yeah, what matters most to you in this season of your life?
I've done recently, or in the last sort of couple of years, I've reflected on some of the values and strengths and all those sorts of things. I've been diving into that stuff. And the things that like I value the most, that are most important to me, are all of those things that I guess it's not something that people would always do first off. So it's stuff like your health and your family, and authenticity was one of the things that I valued the most. So things like that are really important to me. And I think probably why that is because I've had so many different things go on, like with parents passing away and things like that. I think health and family become so much more important. Whereas when you're younger, it might be exploring and travel and money and climbing corporate ladders or something like that. Whereas for me, I feel like it's really come back to the basic stuff, like the stuff you can't take anything with you when you go. So it's, yeah, health and family that's the most important thing.
That's beautiful. And you did mention authenticity. So what
Yeah.
does that look like for you in this season of your life?
I think just like I was saying a bit before, showing up as yourself, but then honoring yourself, because I've grown up as a chronic people pleaser. And so that meant still being authentic. I think that's something that people have always said with me that they've been drawn to, because I do keep it real. I'm not being fake. I'll just tell you how I feel. But I would always put myself on the line for everybody else as well. So I think in 2 ways, authenticity for me, probably 3 ways. There's the fact of me being authentic and making sure that I'm always being honest and keeping it real. But then there's always too, I think this is an ADHD thing also. It's like you have almost like a bullshit filter. I just cannot deal with if I can sniff it out straight away if someone is not authentic. And it's one of those things that I really try and align myself with the same sort of people that aren't going to be in it for whatever reason they're telling me that they're not. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's how it
that
is.
that's beautiful. And to know who you are, give yourself space, do the inward work. What do I need? Being really aware of the people pleasing. And because I think once you're aware, you go, oh, there I was people pleasing again. Next time I'm going to do this. So that awareness is so important. And then the second thing is the bullshit thing and aligning yourself with people. So you're not unraveling people who are toxic because they don't come into your life. You don't allow them in, which is beautiful.
No. Yeah. I
Yeah.
always try and just keep that at a distance.
Yeah. No, love. Thank you. Thank you for telling us a little bit more about you.
No
And
worries.
so let's go into the stone in your shoe and what you're going to talk about today. And if you had to name it, what would you call it? And just tell us a little bit more about the stone and then we'll delve into it.
Okay. Well, it's it's a bit of a journey of the stone. And that's what the stone probably is. It's just this niggling thing. So for the beginning, it would be trying to do everything. It would be trying to be like wearing all of the hats and then just trying to hold it together. It would be that's the beginning of it, I would say. And then from what it's ended up being, it's right into the end of the ADHD diagnosis as well. Uh,
Beautiful. So talk us through, from when this build-up of trying to do everything, trying to keep it all together started. So was
mhm.
it school, perhaps teenagers? Very often with middle-aged ladies, it happens in menopause that everything falls apart. So just talk us through your journey and then how the diagnosis happened.
Okay. So the first part of it was I was working full time and my husband was working away and my kids were quite little. They were, I think Jake was in grade, or he was just starting school, so prep. So that's 5. And my father had passed away a couple of years before, and my mum was living by herself up in Brisbane. And mum started to show signs of getting dementia, which is in our family through her mother, and her sister had it. And I was just a little bit in denial. I just kept thinking she'll be right. And my brother-in-law was going up there each week because he worked around the corner and he'd stay. And we felt like she's all good. And eventually he said to us, girls, you're going to have to come up here. If you can, she's just starting to, it's not till you go and see and you're there that you can see, because she was very good at covering stuff up. So then we'd start to realize, oh, she's not making her bed. She's sleeping on top of it because she's not eating or whatever it might be. And because I'm such a positive thinker, I always try and see the good and see the positive side of things. I just was like, she'll be right. We'll keep it. It's all good. And we were just holding on. We would go up. My sister and I were like tag teaming it. We'd go up every day, making sure that washing's being done, that she's getting out, that she was eating and all of that. Because it was the very beginning of it. And my sister just seemed to get the idea of it in her head earlier than me. And she just said to me one day, Mum's got dementia, love. We really need to start planning stuff. And I just was like, not ready for that. I just wasn't ready to hear that. And that conversation it was just one conversation, but I hung up the phone and I burst into tears. And it was that one thing that it's like it sunk in all of a sudden. And I'd been doing all the things before that, but then all of a sudden my brain just started to be I was constantly sad and constantly choking back tears. And I had a really good GP at the time, and she just started scheduling me in every Thursday. And I would sit there, and she was so used to knowing me as this positive person. And I started just being really like, this isn't fair. Life's not fair. The world's awful. And she was like, this isn't you. And she kept saying things like, the world is beautiful, Amanda. And I was like, how can it be? How can this be? And I was so like how unjust it was that mum had lived this life and now she has dementia, because she didn't necessarily have the best marriage and things like that. But my mum to me is like an angel. Like, she was just such a beautiful woman. And I just felt so, for her sake, beaten down by that. And the tears started and they just didn't stop. Like, I still kept working. I was just doing everything still, but I could suck it up and go into a meeting and be on. And then I'd get back to the car and I'll burst into tears and I'd just drive, not even sobbing, just crying, like just tears. And I can't say what I was crying about. I was just crying. And I am a crier in the sense of I cry with like happiness. Like, I get overwhelmed with a happy emotion. I'm the kind of person that'll go to a festival or a concert. I love music, and I'll walk in and I'll hear the sound hit me. And the feeling is excitement, and then I'll flood with tears. And my family will look at me and go, why are you crying? And I'm like, oh, it's just so beautiful. But it wasn't that. It was just sorrow. So I did that. And it was 8 months my doctor chugged me through this whole, let's just talk about it each week, get you through. And she kept saying really hard truths to me about, you can't keep driving to Brisbane every day or every other day and doing that and then trying to keep your full-time job, trying to get the kids at school. You just can't. And I remember being like really desperately asking her, like, what's going to happen? You keep saying, I can't keep doing this. Something bad's going to happen. What's going to happen? And she was dancing around, like, she didn't really say, look, you'll end up in hospital, or like, I was on my knees, like, I can't stop it. So what, I don't know what will happen. And she was, you just can't keep doing it. And eventually, I guess they all came crashing down, those plates spinning in the air, in the sense of I had to go to an event. So I was trying to still do my job and go to functions and things. And I walked into this room and I was already running late. So the ADHD's there, didn't know about it. I fly in sideways running late into this room. And it's all these people I know, but it was all also a room of they had projections all on the walls, very arty event. And I think the projections hit my eyes, like the light got me and it disarmed me. Like all of a sudden, but in a panicky way, I had what people have when people have panic attacks and things regularly. I had that insight of, wow, people do this all the time. I'd never, because I live normally so happy. I walked in there and honestly, it was like a tiger was chasing me or I was under fire. Instantly lost my breath. I was like the most terrified feeling I've ever felt in my life. And my friend, a lady walked past there in the functions with the champagne on the tray. She walked past and that snapped it out of me. And I just grabbed that and I saw my friend and she just waved at me and I was like beeline to her and I just never said anything, but I'd gotten out of it in that moment. I was very lucky, but I shit myself at that. I was like, what if that happens when I'm driving with my kids in the car? What if that happens? I'm also very in control all of the time. I've always been one of those people that, you're not going to see me blind and drunk at a party, dancing on the table and ripping my clothes off. I'm just very, I can be fun, but I'm in control. So that for me was terrifying.
Yeah, I can imagine because it's like I no longer have control of my mind and my body. It has a life of its own. And you go outside to an event and this screens have taken over. I am at the edge of the cliff. And if I don't do something now, I'm going to fall off. Feeling
Yeah.
is what I'm getting from you.
Yeah. I felt like on my knees with just crippling. If I don't do something, I felt like I'd already been limping it along. My husband and I all had this kind of he was working away a lot. Not away, he was working long hours in Brisbane. So I was at home doing all the stuff too. But then we had this thing going on where I used to be able to ring him and say, I'm on my way home now. And he would be maybe at home. And I'd be like, I can't stop crying. I've just left mum. I can't stop. I'm going to come home. I'm going to usher past you and go straight in the shower and try and sort this out. Because they were trying to shield it from the kids. And we had this real thing going on where we were trying to just limp it along. And then I felt like as much as how hard it was, we had a bit of a structure going of I can suck it up for meetings and I can just limp it past the kids into the shower. I've got a headache, I'm going to bed early. We were able to do it. And that was the first time that it came crashing down and I couldn't stop it. And yes, it didn't last long, but I was like, well, this isn't good. And then another thing happened the same week where I started to actually tear up in a meeting with clients.
So what did you do then? You realized that actually something needed to change and that the way you're trying to hold it together in this grief was making it really difficult for you to carry on to functioning in life. So what happened next?
So when that happened, I just booked straight in to see my doctor, which I was seeing her anyway on the Thursdays, but I was like, I have to come in. And she was so good. She'd always book out a double appointment. And as much as I'd be like, there's people waiting outside, she'd just go, no, push the tissues across. Let's talk about it. And she said to me, you're experiencing grief now for your mum. You're going through grief while you're watching someone. It's because it was progressing. Mum's dementia progressed quite fast. So this period of time is the crying and then getting to this is about 8 months. So mum was really progressing badly. And she said to me, you're having to go and see someone every day that you're grieving and they're right in front of you. And that's really hard. And then along the way, there'd been all these other things happen, like pets dying and an auntie who was also my mum passing away. There was about 7 different things in the end that happened really quickly. And she said to me, she put a name on it as, adjustment disorder, she called it. So she said there's people that suffer with depression and anxiety and things their whole life, and they always battling these sorts of things. And then there's people that have something they don't suffer normally, but then something significant happens and maybe a series of events happen. We call them stressors, I think. And all of a sudden your body's not adjusting to this. You're just not dealing, and it comes crashing down. So she was like, this is serious. This could have you in hospital, and this is like a real risk factor here for people that want to take their own lives, and they just cannot cope anymore. And I did feel at one stage there was a few days there where I said to my husband, and I don't think I would have ever gone and done that, but I felt like it would have just been better for everybody. And it's so awful to hear that I used to think this, because it's so not true, that it would be better for my husband not to have to limp this girl home every day who's trying to shield from the kids, the kids to have a better parent. I honestly, at one point there for a couple of days, was like, I just want to go to sleep. I don't want to wake up. I really just, if I could have just said, okay, let's just sort it out now, I probably would have. But talking to the doctor about it, she was like, that's normal. It's okay. You're feeling that. I think people that are going to probably go and do that have had that for a long time, and they'll be planning in the background, which I wasn't doing that. But I hit this point where right now for this next 3 days kind of thing, I was like, that's the option. It just sounded like the best thing.
So thank goodness you had somebody with you on this journey who knew you so well, who was supporting you, and also making that what you were feeling was part of this grieving process, and that there wasn't something wrong or broken with you, that you were just in the process of something, and that you would get through. It was just a matter of processing that grief. Were you diagnosed with ADHD at that point?
No.
Okay. So
No.
then how did that happen?
So then she said to me, I think you need to go on a sertraline, I think it was called, an antidepressant. So I went on that, and then honestly, within I think a week, I just stopped crying. It was like a tap. And it was from that once I started to feel better and I could handle things more, we started to delve into me and what makes me happy and things like that. And one of the things that I love, I'm an artist, it was like drawing and getting down, and really it's hyper focus, which I realize now, but I didn't know that at the time. But the hyper focus in ADHD is that ability to be able to sit at a task for hours on end and just you don't even notice the time going by. And that's the skill that I'll get into, like when I'm drawing. So that was the thing that was happening. And then the catalyst to make me actually find out about the ADHD was my daughter. So she was in school and doing really well. And then all of a sudden, she started to get her marks were dropping. And the teacher said to me she was having trouble focusing. And we started to I just started to Google and look into things. No one said anything. I was in the camp of, I thought ADHD was the naughty boys that grew out of it. I thought they were little boys. I thought they grew out of it. And I thought they were like climbing on the roof and rocking on their chairs, to be honest. I was that. And I had no idea there was another kind of it. I had no idea. And so we started looking into it. And I was looking at, my kids are pretty close in age. They're 20 months apart. And the littler one was starting to pass the older one on all of the executive functioning stuff, like all of the organization and the planning and all of that stuff. And I just thought, it could be boys, girls. Nothing had really dropped, like it hadn't clicked. And I Googled something one day, and I can't remember what it was or what site it was, but I read it and I thought, that is my daughter. Still didn't think that's me, not at all. And I pretty much emailed this lovely doctor I have, give her the lowdown. I'm coming in and I'm going to bring her in and we're going to talk about this. So I thought I didn't want to just lump it on her. I wanted to kind of have her with a bit of an idea of what we were going to talk about. And so then when I went in, we were talking about it all and discussing it with my daughter. And my doctor, she's known me, the same doctor I was just talking about, so casually said, it's like a hereditary thing. It's so genetic. It's in families. You know you have it, right? She said, you've got it. And I was like, what? She said, I've never mentioned it to you before because you're so high functioning, Amanda. And it's not been really something that we've had to discuss. But she said, I just must have thought that you had a diagnosis in the past, but it's just not. Like she said, you were so ADHD. Like it was like a given. And I was like, what are you saying to me? Because I hadn't even thought about it for me at all. And
And I think it's so common because how old are you now? Sorry if you don't mind me
so
asking.
I'm turning 50 this year.
Turning 50. When you possibly would have been in your girls are diagnosed later than boys, so they're not at the when they first start school, it's often in their teens, right? Even
Yeah.
if we were diagnosed back then or had signs of it, we're so good at masking. We're so
Yeah.
good at it's a very different ADHD to the, as you said, climbing the wall, rocking on the chair,
Oh, so
the
different.
inattentive type. And oh, she's just a dreamer. Oh, look, she's just away with the fairies. That's often what was said.
Yes.
And you found ways, strategies of probably coping, working twice as hard as everyone else just to live a normal life. And that became normal.
Mm.
And it became normal for many of us. I think a lot of people at this in the last 10 years have gone, what? I had ADHD? I didn't know that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
that's the thing with me. It's like I can look back, and this is part of it too, because like you were saying before, there's the hormone side of things when people hit perimenopause. We've had doctors that come and talk at Distracted, and they'll say there's people that turn up to the GP clinic and they are so looking like they have ADHD. It's like textbook looking of it. But when they delve, and that's their job then to go, hang on, let's dive to the bottom of this. When they go and dive into it, this stuff's only been happening recently for them. And that's when they go, okay, this is perimenopause, and they'll start adjusting things. But it's for me, when you look back, I can tell you so many stories from when I was 4, 3, 5, whatever, all the way. That is, you can now with that lens go, oh, wow, that is so ADHD. And you might pick it up nowadays, but it has to have been there all that time too. And yeah, it's
yeah.
like this puzzle of the pieces of the puzzles go together. But I never really realized any puzzle piece was missing, to be fair. But now once I know and I look at it through the lens of, oh, that doing that was ADHD, it's like it is all coming together now.
So the ADHD diagnosis with your dealing with the grief of what was happening to your mum and being on the SSRIs, or the antidepressants, how did the knowledge of you having ADHD and suddenly going, gosh, that makes sense. How did that work together with everything that was happening to you? And what was the outcome of that?
So the best thing I could have ever done is get an ADHD diagnosis. I didn't know I needed it. I didn't know I had it. I didn't know anything about it. But I didn't realize how cruel I was being to myself all along. Like, why can't you? You're just ditzy. You can't remember stuff. All of the things. I honestly walked around thinking I was just the dumb girl, but I had lots of nice qualities and I was kind and friendly and nice. But and I actually put the academic smart side of things aside because that's not you're the artsy one. And I tried to just forget about that. That might be important too for me.
So
Um,
you made that conclusion about yourself when you were a child that
yeah,
you're just not smart, not
yeah.
not capable, or was there capable in there? You just had these beautiful qualities. I'm just trying to think about the wounds
No,
that
I didn't
there
think
that
I
were.
was capable, Debbie. I didn't. I remember as a teenager or even getting older thinking, I don't know if I'll be able to have a child one day because I'll probably kill it by accident. I actually used to think that. I might just be that person that goes home from the shops and thinks, oh shit, where's my child? And I
I've
wasn't
done that, by the way. So it's okay, and they were fine.
That's
um,
right.
Gosh, that's a big conclusion to come to yourself, and with the evidence as well, because you were undiagnosed ADHD. Going into a classroom and being expected to do the executive tasks and staying on track with things that really didn't interest you, you almost set up for failure. So it's constant affirmation of your I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not capable. That's a big burden to
Yeah.
carry your whole life. And
Yeah.
so this diagnosis, tell me how that kind of, you said it was the best thing that happened to you. How did that kind of liberate you or set you free, or maybe allow you to look at these beliefs that you made about yourself and go, that's just not true.
It did exactly that. And I've often heard it from other people from having the distracted events and things. So many people tell me they experienced like a period of grief where they were really sad about the life that they led and the life they could have led. But I have to be honest, I never felt that. I just had this feeling of kindness to myself, like this understanding of that's okay. Because part of me too, I remember things like as a child, it wasn't always like an academic thing, but it would be this emotional thing because I really do feel stuff like on this most deep level and from a small child. And like I said before, like the injustices of things and all of that unspoken, this is the way the world is and this is just how it is. And no one tells anybody anything, but we all are in on the same camp and we just do this because whatever it might be. And I would be calling bullshit as a small child on, but hang on, how come this happens? And mum and dad would be like, oh gosh. And then I would be so upset about things, like emotionally sad. Grew up absolutely loving animals. I love animals still to this day. I love them so much. But then I'd want to watch like the wildlife documentary and it'd be all the nice one where they've got new babies and things like that. Beautiful. Next one, it'll be like The Hunt. And I would be absolutely devastated that why didn't they stop that? I'd say to dad, why? Like, there's cameras. It's clear someone could have seen that was happening and stopped it. And dad would try and explain it. This is educating people and it's so you get to know and it's the way of the world and you do the circle of life and all of that. And I would carry that for the poor little impala or whatever it might be for have to go to sleep just getting so upset that it happened. And I'd hear
So
my parents saying, oh, she's just so emotional. She's so emotional. And used to think that was bad.
yeah, and it's carrying those big emotions when you are doing it and no one else is, and you're like, what's wrong with me? Why am I? Did you ever at any point go, there must be something in me that's broken, that's just not working properly, that I am so emotional? Or did
I used to, no, I didn't think anything was broken. I knew I was different. I've always known I was different. But I used to see it in a sunshiny kind of way because I was always a bit much too because I'm a chatterbox. And so I'd always be happy and chatty, but it was always like, okay, shush now, please, that the parents are talking or whoever. And as an adult now, I do have to commend my family for, I can't really remember them ever being harsh on me with be quiet. And whereas as a parent, I have an ADHD daughter who talks a lot to me sometimes. And it's fine. I love that. I love how much she talks. But then there's times when you do just want everyone to leave you be. And I think parents have to juggle that. There's this rejection you feel too if someone says something like, don't talk to me right now. And I never felt that side of it as a kid, but I did feel different in the sense of I knew I was bubbly. I knew people it's like they say you go in a room, you light up a room. I knew I did that. I knew I had that. And I think I leaned into that because then I became a bit of, in our family, a bit of the entertainer, like a bit of the joker,
yeah, yeah,
because that's better. And I think a lot of ADHD kids do that than focusing on your timetable that I
yeah,
just couldn't bloody get.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, the emotional side of ADHD, because a lot of people never talked about that. It was more the executive function and the
Yes.
behavior side. That was very much the way boys presented, whereas girls are very different. And the emotional. Can you just talk a little bit more about that for somebody who might not be diagnosed, and how the emotions overwhelm you, and also, I guess, a little bit about masking and trying to fit in, and as a result you lose your, no, that's too many things for an ADHD person. Let's stop right there. Let's ask one question at a time. So
You and I
it's just,
blah, 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 blah.
yeah, and I'm, yeah, because it's just me. These 5 things I need to know. No, let's just do the one thing at a time. Let's just do the emotional side, and knowing how having their diagnosis of ADHD, how that helped you accept yourself.
It really did, in that sense of looking back and going, that's where it was, that's where it was, that's where it was. It gave me permission to understand that it's not this moral failing. because you can't see it, it's so easy to do it to yourself. I'm a victim of that myself. I like turning it in and being this inner critic, cruel to my own self of why did everybody else get the memo? How come everyone else isn't at the soccer fields at 7 o'clock in the morning at Paradise Point when I've got all of our family, including grandparents, out of bed in the winter, in the rain, at Paradise Point, half an hour drive away for the soccer game that, oh, no one's here. And I would beat myself up over that. And now there's an element of, no, this is what I struggle with. And not it has to be everyone's problem, but I've started to go, can someone else check the app? Because it shouldn't land, as a mom, everything lands on you generally for that stuff, because that's just the role I was doing. And I was doing it badly. But then in the same, talking about emotion, in the same vein, if my husband dare said anything like, "Have you checked the app?" Oh, then I'd be so wounded, because you're so sensitive as well, because I feel like you're trying so hard all the time. And if everyone could just see the little things that you've had to do just to get to that, and then it goes wrong, it's like you just feel like the world comes crashing down, and no one cares about the fact that this happened and that happened and you've overcome. Because I feel like we're really good at fixing stuff and problem solving, but no one cares. And I listened to something, or I read something years ago about a woman talking about her son having ADHD. And this kid he was an older kid, like 20 something, and he had to go overseas to be like a best man in a wedding. And he had to do all of that stuff. To everybody that's just neurotypical, it's, yeah, whatever, we all do this. But thinking of it in our brains, the whole like coordinating, getting your bag packed, remembering your passport, all that stuff, then getting to the airport on time, checking in. Now you got all these people and noise and lights and all of the stuff, getting to the boarding gate on time because now you've checked in and you're a bit relaxed, and all of that, like all those things, getting off the plane, getting to your hotel, doing the things. He got there and he had done all this stuff and he forgot his suit trousers. And it's not the end of the world. You can get the trousers quickly somewhere. But that's the reality of it. It's like you feel like all the things that everyone just takes as like a breeze, it's a walk in the park. It's so taxing. It's hard to do. And then if just the smallest thing goes wrong like that, not the smallest thing, but something goes wrong, how much you beat yourself up is so much. And then it just takes, with the emotional stuff, it just takes someone to show any sort of disappointment or that you've done something wrong, and all of a sudden you just feel so bad. And for me, it doesn't stop. Knowing I have it doesn't stop that sometimes, but it gives me a lens of, hang on a second. It's like I've got a cheerleader that's on patting me on the back going, wait a second, everyone. She's got ADHD. This is hard for her. Whereas before, I just would have been like, oh, yeah, I'm a failure.
Yeah, and also with the education that you're doing, which is so brilliant, not only are you educating the person themselves so that they, as you said earlier, it's not a moral failing, it is how your brain works. And also what you said earlier is that you walk into a room and you light up your room, and that is your special skill amongst various other things. The fact that you can't get somewhere on time or that you can't get to the soccer match, it's also asking other people to help. Go, you know what? I'm not very good at this. And it's almost reminds me of the duck on the water where everything's gliding, but underwater they are working so hard. And they don't see, if you, as you said, if you've got a neurotypical brain, you can't see that the effort involved for stuff that you just take for granted can be, depending on what it is, 2 to 10-fold the effort that you're putting in. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I think in the work that you're doing so that the family members can understand and be compassionate as well, so that the disappointment is not there. But most importantly, that the person involved, depending on how their ADHD presents, because everybody's different, they can have compassion for themselves and kindness for themselves. Because when I think that's such an important part, because then your lens changes and you're not flawed, you're not good enough, you're not worth all the things that you take. I've got ADHD, but I've got amazing superpowers. I can do
Yes.
these and these things. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's the other thing too. Like I've been recently over the last few years looking at that value system, but then looking at the strength you have,
Mhm.
because we all have strengths as well. And that's part of it. And I think even just like in schools and everywhere, like this whole, like what, like it's teachers and people that everyone's trained to go, let's evaluate Debbie, let's evaluate Amanda. What's she struggling with? What do we need to fix? What can we help her with? And there's not really much attention going on. What's Debbie really good at? Or what's Amanda really good at? And then you identifying yourself and knowing, I'm good at this, so how can I lean into that better? So I've been looking at that sort of stuff, and it's things like, I'm really curious. I like to find out stuff, and I love connecting people. I didn't realize how much I love. I'm always been a bit of like in the friendship group when we were younger, before we had kids. It was always at our house a party, or and it's just like I love being the glue that connects people. And I don't mean to do that. But then when I think about it, I think about distracted, for instance. I started that because I found out I had ADHD. And then I said, where can I go meet people? Because I actually, at this stage, I didn't know anyone with ADHD. And I thought, oh, there's going to be people like me. And then we're going to be able to just chat and be all like sparkly and happy and find all the talk about rainbows. Because we joke in my family, because my husband thinks that rainbows, lollipops, and because that's me. Everyone else can be a bit doom and gloom about stuff. And then I'm all, and he jokes that I'd meet someone like, he says, I meet Ivan Milat. And he says, you and Ivan Milat, like you would probably, he wouldn't kill you. He'd like you. You'd probably you'd probably talk to him about, and you'd come home and you'd say, I met this man, Ivan, and he's a really nice man. And he said, and he probably would be a nice man to you.
For those of you who are listening from another country, Alvin Milat was a serial killer.
A
And
terrible serial killer.
yeah, and yeah, I hear you, because I'm awe and wonder. I'm called awe and wonder in my
Are
family.
you?
Yeah. Amanda, if you could go back and speak to the younger version of yourself, what misunderstanding would you most want to free her from?
I think it would be that it's just okay to be you, I don't think I tried to change too much, but I think it would be maybe letting me know that you're not dumb, that your brain works differently, that this environment for you isn't set up for you, that lean into what you love. Like I loved books and things like that. Like the book back in the day for me was like the iPad these days. Like lean into that stuff that you're loving. And yes, you need to know your times tables, and yes, you need to know whatever this is, but remembering that this structure you're in right now, once you're older, you won't have to be doing this. And I almost remember telling myself stuff like that when I was little, because I was terrified of speaking in front of people. I was terrified of doing those class presentations you'd have to do. And sometimes they'd start it with the first letter of the alphabet, Amanda. We'll just start with, let's go through, Amanda, you're up first. And once I ever got into a moment and did it, I was fine. I actually did really good on those kind of grades, because I am chatty and I think I could wing it a bit more because I am chatty. But I used to be so scared of those things. And I used to tell myself, when you're older and no one has to tell you what to do anymore, you can just choose not to do this and you can make choices. Because I used to feel like, and this would be all kids everywhere, you're just doing stuff all the time that you don't want to do, that you have to do. And I always say to my own kids now, just do it scared, just do it, get in. If you've got to do the thing, just do it scared, and just get it done. Because there are things you have to do like that. But I would tell my younger self, just, yeah, this isn't forever. You're not dumb. You've got an amazing brain, and
That's
just
beautiful.
lean in.
It's your cheerleader who was always there, but probably got drowned out in the midst of life and everything else, and
Yeah.
has come back. And it's, by the sounds of it, you've got a whole troop of cheerleaders, or whatever you call
Yeah.
lots of cheerleaders, all saying,
Yeah.
yeah, no, Amanda, you're amazing. So
Yeah. Do it.
to it. And I think what you said there is curiosity, because curiosity is one of my core things. And the other thing is courage. I love curiosity, courage, and creativity are my kind of core pillars of how I,
Yeah.
yeah, because courage is essential in things. If you just speaking to the woman who's listening to you today, and maybe she's feeling exhausted from carrying all these emotions she can't explain, what would you leave her with today?
I would say to lean into it. Like, I'm a big believer in sitting in the feelings of things. And I know we don't always have time to do that. But if someone's feeling lots of things and they don't know how to explain it and they're not sure of what's happening, I really like to I like to think about why that's happening rather than just fixing it, like with the say, like with pain, for instance, not just putting that painkiller straight on it, it doesn't exist anymore. It's going to come back. So that's how I feel with emotions and things. So I feel like you, if people can just take the time to go, why am I here, and feel it, feel like then you can just move on through it to the next stage, which and grow hopefully from that. And the thing too, and if you put a lens of that with ADHD, in the sense of like sometimes things happen where you're overwhelmed or you're excitable or you blow up about something because it's all been happening. And this is like kids in school that are kicking off. It's always about this, why did that happen, in the behavior and naughty or whatever it might be. And they're just everyone's feeling so bad about their behavior or how they're feeling. But no one's thinking beforehand, how did I get here? And I think that's important. If you're feeling something, like whatever you do to think about it, however you're going to drill in and find that out, whether it's writing it down. Me, it's like talking. It's like I process stuff so well from listening and talking things through. So even taking voice notes, stuff like that, just so you can, it's like on the hop, my brain will start to go, if I start talking it out loud, it'll connect. Hang on, this. And then all of a sudden, it's not that you've solved the problem, it's just that you know where it's coming from, and it's not just this, I feel like this. It's always, you've got to be curious and find
Yeah,
out why.
yeah, yeah. No, and I love that, the fact that everybody has a different way of processing it, and some people write diaries, some people
Yeah,
talk to themselves, some people talk to other people, some people talk to a therapist, whatever it is, because the saying goes, whatever you resist persists. You
yeah,
can't squash these emotions down. They are stone in your shoe. They're telling you something. And the sooner we listen to them, and no such thing as a good or a bad emotion, we are full of emotions. So
yeah,
feeling angry, you can't, feel angry. It's a bad emotion. Let's flip that and go, I'm feeling angry. Why am I feeling angry? And
yep,
once you explore that without judgment and with compassion and curiosity and courage, I think that's when we can really listen to ourselves and really try and understand ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Amanda, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for
You're
shining
welcome.
this light on ADHD and how it shows up in women, and your story of grief and how it came out. And even though you've got this personality of rainbows and unicorns and whatever, there comes a time when the stone gets so sharp that you have to do something about it before you fall off the edge of a cliff. So is there anything else you want to leave us with before we finish?
I guess just to be your best version of yourself, just to just always honor yourself, I think is, at our age, it's about that. You're being everything for everyone and you can still be everything for everyone. But what's that saying? You can't pour from an empty cup. Is that the one? That it's that you need to be making sure you're taking care of yourself too. So it's that. And that's a battle. All of us, that's a battle. But it might be the smallest thing. Like I love a pot of tea. Just a pot of tea. It doesn't have to be facials and massages and trips away. That'd be nice. But just tiny little moments for yourself just to come back to you.
Beautiful. Amanda, thank you so much for your time and really appreciate your story. Something that I really resonate with. But as you finish listening today, just notice what stayed with you. Maybe there was a part that felt familiar, or maybe there was something that was quietly uncomfortable. And take the time, because that's usually where something true is sitting. Thanks for listening.